So welcome back to the Creativity series and to day 1 of part 2. Now in part 1 we were focusing on this visualization which tends to bring about a very settled state of both mind and body. It creates a space in the mind which allows creativity to come to the surface. You may have experienced it during the meditation itself or kind of after the meditation, out and about in everyday life. In part 2, we're going to look at a similar visualization, or a visualization which draws on some of those same themes, but that has a slightly more energetic quality about it. And for some people, that can stimulate a greater sense of creativity. As always, I'll be leading you through the exercise, so there's nothing too much for you to do or remember. I guess the most important thing as we begin with day 1 is just knowing that in just the same way as with the visualization in part 1, there's no need to apply a huge amount of effort. When you're visualizing in this way, it's as if it's happening anyway, and you're just sort of watching it take place, and that allows the effort to be regulated, moderated, and ensures that the meditation flows smoothly. So for now, just take a moment or two to get comfortable in the chair. And when you're ready, still with the eyes open, just taking a couple of nice big deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. With the next out breath, just gently closing the eyelids, and then just taking a minute or so just to check in with the physical sensations in the body, the weight of the body, and just noticing any sounds or strong smells in your immediate environment. And now just bringing the attention back to the body. Just getting a sense of how the body feels right now. And just to get a clearer idea, starting at the top of the head, just gently scanning down, all the way down to the toes. Remember, as always, just starting to get a sense of any particularly strong underlying mood that might be around at the moment. as you scan all the way down to the toes. Just taking a moment to pause, just to be clear about your motivation. Remembering those ideas from part 1 of this series of incorporating the benefit that others get from the meditation into that motivation. And knowing that just like any other exercise on the Headspace journey, this doesn't require a lot of effort. It's about stepping back and allowing something to happen. So just take a moment now to shift the focus to the breath and just take a couple of minutes to settle into the rhythm of that breath, noticing where in the body you feel the movement, and just noticing how one breath is different from the next. So just continuing to focus on the breath very lightly, very gently. And we're going to begin the visualization aspect of this exercise by focusing our attention down towards the feet. And I'd like you to imagine an area around by the ankles, about the size of a football. And I'd like you to bring to that area a similar kind of quality of sunlight that we used in part 1 of the creativity series. So it's very bright, it's very warm, it's very clear. Remember, the importance of bringing that to mind is that it makes sure the mind is very light, it's very spacious, and therefore open to those creative, spontaneous thoughts. And as you focus your attention on that area, just getting a sense of how it feels in that area. So for example, whether there's a feeling of heaviness or lightness around that area. Try not to be too quick to judge it, to call it. Take a good 5-10 seconds just to really be curious as to how it feels. Notice whether there's a sense of stillness or restlessness. and whether there's a sense of spaciousness or restriction in that area. So remember, you're not focusing too specifically on a particular part of the body. You're just imagining a space in that general area about the size of a football, very clear, very bright, very warm. And I'd now like you to do exactly the same, but a little bit further up the body, this time just below the belly button. So it kind of takes in the lower stomach, the hip, the pelvic area, and also the lower back as well. So again, about the size of a football. It's as though it sort of sits right in the middle of the body, has all those same qualities of warmth, brightness. And again, as you just settle your attention there, noticing whether the feeling is one of heaviness or lightness. Neither is right or wrong, by the way. Feeling of stillness or restlessness. And a feeling of spaciousness or restriction. Not trying to change anything, just building up a picture of how it feels in each of these areas as you visualize that space. Again, we're going to do exactly the same this time, a little bit further up the body. This time around the area of the diaphragm or the solar plexus. So it's almost as though someone's shining a very bright torch, something in that area. Again, still about the size of a football, so it's not, we're thinking more sort of as a sphere. It's not 2D, it's very much 3D. It takes in the front of the body, the back of the body, the sides. Very bright, very warm, very clear. And you should just gently focus the attention in that space, just noticing whether it feels heavy or light. Restless or still. Spacious or restricted. Now again, this time up around the area of the chest, the upper back, so in the middle of the body. Again, just noticing whether there's a feeling of heaviness or lightness. Restlessness or stillness. And spaciousness or restriction. And we're going to do the same again, this time around the area of the throat and the neck. So you may find that if you're still imagining that sort of size of a football, it's a little bit bigger than the physical area of the throat or the neck. That's fine. Doesn't matter, you're still picturing that very bright, clear, light space, as you just bring a bit of curiosity to that area. Again, a feeling of heaviness or lightness. A feeling of restlessness or stillness. And of spaciousness or restriction. We've just got two more to do. The next one is at the level of the brow, your forehead. Again, still remembering that the image, the visualization, is very much in the center of the body, so it takes in the back of the head as well as the front. You just gently focus your attention in that space. Remember the qualities of lightness, brightness. And you notice a feeling of heaviness or of lightness. Of spaciousness or restriction. And of stillness or movement. And now finally I'd like you to focus your attention just about 6 to 8 inches above the top of the head. And although that might sound strange, focusing on an area where you don't necessarily have any physical reference point, in just the same way, just notice whether there's a sense of heaviness or lightness as you imagine that space above the head. Whether there's a feeling of stillness or restlessness. And whether there's a feeling of spaciousness or restriction. But for now, just gently bringing the attention back to the body, back to the physical feelings within the body, in particular the weight on the chair, the feet on the floor, the hands on the lap. Noticing any sounds and just bringing the mind back into the physical senses, back into the environment in which you're sat. And in your own time now, just gently opening the eyes, noticing how the body feels, how the mind feels, and just being clear about carrying that awareness with you throughout the day today. And as you sit back in the chair, it's important to remember that we're going to build up this visualization step by step. So this is really just stage 1, which I took a little bit more slowly today just to allow you to get comfortable with that process. There's actually another 2 or 3 stages to add to this. It may sound very, very busy, but actually once the exercise is flowing very smoothly and is delivered in its sort of full context, it starts to feel very, very different than it would have done today. So make sure you come back tomorrow for stage 2.